The Mona Lisa, Starry Night, Creation of Adam. You know every single one of those pieces. Unless you were literally born 2 days ago, you've seen those paintings in some way, shape, or form. Put simply, they are some of the most popular pieces ever made. But let me ask you something. Does that make them better? I mean, obviously these paintings are extremely well made. They're beautiful and the craftsmanship is undeniable. But the fact that they're well known, the popularity of them, does that somehow make the artwork better? Now, I get the feeling many of you already have an answer in mind, but I think the truth is a lot more nuanced than you might think. A piece of art being well known isn't just some vanity metric. The cultural impact of the piece is an important part of its story. And when it comes to art, I don't think the story can be ignored. For example, the Mona Lisa has an incredible story around it. It was made by one of the greatest inventors of the Renaissance. There's a bit of mystery around who the painting was of, and of course, it was stolen back in 1911. All of these individually grew the popularity of the painting because the painting now had a story behind it. As humans, we are drawn to stories, and so our art tends to reflect that, with many of our most popular paintings having a story either attached to it or being the focus of the artwork itself. The Last Supper, Washington crossing the Delaware, The Course of Empire. They have a story depicted in the painting itself, and the story can add to the artwork. But what does that have to do with the popularity of the piece of art adding to it? Well, whether or not something is popular can be a part of the story itself. For example, how many things are popular not necessarily because they're good, but because they're just popular? Everybody's heard about them for some reason or another. In fact, for a painting like the Mona Lisa, I would argue that the popularity comes not just from the quality of the painting itself, but because it's often seen as the most well-known painting in the world. But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. For example, there are also many things which are often seen as better because of their lack of popularity. The fact that a lot of people don't know about them can make the people who do feel like they're in a special group. Which actually brings me to another question. Does that mean something growing in popularity can make it worse? When it goes from some hidden gem to something everyone knows about, it loses that story of being the underdog. The story changes from it being something no one knows about to something everyone does. In cases like that, the popularity of the thing may actually decrease people's enjoyment of it because it lost that story which they were so attached to. It may have grown a larger following, its cultural impact may be broader, but it may not run as deep. And I would argue that in those cases, it can actually take away from the artwork itself. But those are all things that add to the story around the artwork and can indirectly affect people's enjoyment of it. But there are some pieces where the popularity of the piece can directly affect how good it is. For example, the Odyssey. Now, I'm sure many of you think I'm referring to the movie, which I would say is a great example of something's popularity adding to the overall story of the piece, as many people were hoping that it would not be very popular, only for it to turn out very popular. Interesting story, but in this case, I'm actually referring to the book itself, or to be more specific, the story the book is based on. Now, there's a chance that many of you don't know this, but both the Iliad and the Odyssey, in their written form that we know them today, are not the original story. It's a retelling of a retelling in a countless line of retellings over the course of 300 years. The piece survived as an oral tradition, being passed down from one artist to another, with each one changing it ever so slightly. In fact, many of the stories in the Iliad and the Odyssey are likely based on real events that happened, but they've been passed through a 300-year-long game of telephone before being written down. With a piece of art like that, its popularity wasn't just a part of the story around the piece, it was the piece itself. People passing it back and forth, with its popularity being the reason it survives to this day, as well as being the reason why it's changed so much over the years. For a piece like that, the fact that it's well known was the artwork. And you may think that stuff like that doesn't really apply anymore, but there's another movie that came out this year that is also based on something whose popularity is its reason for existence. Backrooms. If you decide to look at Backrooms as one piece of artwork, its popularity is what grew the piece. It inspired countless people to add to its story and to add to the piece itself, which is a little different from oral traditions, but I'd say it shares the same DNA. People hearing about something and adding to or recreating it based on what they heard. So now that brings me back to my original question. Can the popularity of a piece make it better? Well, yes, but I would also say it can make it worse. But most importantly, it depends on the story that we tell, because we are the ones who decide. An artist can only control the original piece, not the story that's told around it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe for daily uploads, and I will see you tomorrow.